August 19, 2008, we review Too Human.
Once again, we find ourselves neck deep in a story where machines are threatening to wipe out all humankind. In Too Human, you play as Balder, a super soldier cybernetically enhanced in a time where cybernetics are like a drug. Once you get started, it's really hard to stop, and you're faced with crossing this thin line between being a man or a machine. Hence, Too Human.
Just relax and watch.
Well, this is an old one, released by Silicon Knights in 2008. But that's really no big deal, since Silicon Knights took like 10 years to finally produce this game, so if the lab takes only 4 years to produce this review, it really shouldn't be a problem, right?
There are some things even gods should not intrude upon.
We don't just review games that were released last Tuesday, see? We review just about any game on a current gen platform. Once it's a game we think people are still playing or just might end up playing. So with that said, here's the review. Let me get the high point of Too Human out of the way. Now notice, I said point. There really aren't many, you see. What I'd consider the high point of this title kinda covers a lot though. The fun factor. Too Human tries to do a lot of things. None really seem to quite hit the mark, but aren't all that bad where I'd say don't play this. You'll like Too Human if you're a fan of dungeon-style RPGs, walking from room to room mowing down hordes of aliens and monsters and whatnot. So yeah, that can be considered fun. The problem is, with so many shortcomings in this title, that's not enough to hold a player who isn't a hardcore Too Human fan.
There is much mourning to be done.
Here were the things that barely worked in my opinion. The things that managed to keep me interested enough to play this title all the way through to the end. First up, the upgrades. Pretty decent. The skill tree format kinda reminds me of Mass Effect, and the customizations go a far way. You have a lot to choose from, including 5 character classes with their own ups and downs. You have a respec system that if you decide to scrap the character you've developed for whatever reason, you can reset and take it back to the drawing board, for a small cost of course.
Long has it been since you've brought another.
And this must be Balder. We definitely need to spend more time together.
The story is also cool. If you're into that kind of thing, it plays out in a pieced together kind of way that wasn't really able to keep my attention, but it was there and it got stronger and more relevant as I approached the end.
They pulled another body from the channel, ripped to shreds. I don't know what the hell could do such a thing.
This story was also played out by some really impressive cutscenes, impressive for its time at least. Even today, they're still kinda nice to look at. The voice acting was done really well. Silicon Knights are the devs responsible for one of the best games I've ever played back in the GameCube era in 2002, Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. A game that had many high points at the time, one being the voice talent. Silicon Knights did not drop the ball here. It's safe to say their reputation is still intact. The voice acting is solid. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when Balder speaks, especially when he gets really worked up, he gets into this whole Thor, God of Thunder thing, and no matter who's been used to the voice talent for such characters, I can never truly be comfortable with that style of dialogue. But that's just me. The whole tremble before my might, style of speaking will never sound, for lack of a better word, realistic to me. But no love lost. They delivered it as best as anybody possibly could, I guess.
I am no longer the Balder you knew before. That Balder died with Hode's bullet.
The combat system, flawed, but still okay. It's flawed because, well, it seems like at the time the devs were thinking more along the lines of that Jet Li Rise to Honor style fighting system where you use the right thumbstick to execute all the punches and kicks. But they didn't quite get it right. A lot of times you'll find yourself just flailing about hoping you'll eventually hit something. It's considered okay by me simply because you eventually will hit something, and if you're into the crazy button smashing thing, then you should feel right at home. But for players who would like to feel more in control of the game, this will be a problem. Like I said, it's flawed, and the projectile weapons targeting system is also a bit of a mess. Sometimes you find yourself targeting the wrong target or locked on to a target that has already been downed, Other than the fact that you never quite feel the power of these weapons, the aim is off a lot more than the average player wishes to tolerate.
I am gifted with a great many things, wench.
Oh my, he has a fiery heart.
Another cool point is the co-op element. Co-op is always a welcome addition. You might have some problems finding anyone online playing today though, but still good to know it's there. duration of each stage and the entire game is a bit of a two-edged sword. I look at it this way, the stages are shorter than I expected them to be, so is the overall game. But here's the flip side. The game isn't that great anyway, so I guess the duration is acceptable. And that brings me to another okay point that allowed me to see it through to the end, the difficulty level. 2 Human isn't exactly the hardest game I've ever played. Due to its leveling up system and basic level design, I was able to get through it before boredom and tedium set in. I'll confess, I died more often than I would have wanted to, but still, I was able to push on.
Please, my lord, we don't want...
Now let's get into the garbage, the stuff that I believe made this game a disappointment for all the players who waited the 10 years for it. The camera is the first thing, a complete joke. One of those automated cameras that does not do a good job at being automatic. Honestly, I think Silicon Knights should have just scrapped the whole right stick melee idea, you know, and dedicate the right stick to manual camera controls instead. Maybe if they had taken a page out of Rise to Honor, they would have done a better job with it, who knows. Now, like I told you, I did die quite a bit, but here's where Silicon Knights really rubbed it in. You see, when you die, you have to sit through this scene where a Valkyrie flies down and lifts you up to Odin to get a respawn. I mean, hey, it's cool to look at this for the first time, but come on. After the first dozen times, it's nothing more than a chore. Your squad members, completely useless. This goes in the bad section, yes. But let's get something clear. I have yet to see a game, whether released 10 years ago or last Tuesday, that has good AI, particularly the AI of your squad. Some have come close with enemy AI, but never with your squad. It seems like game developers think that a part of a challenging difficulty system should be brain-dead squad members. Well, let me teach you something, Des. No, that's not the way. That just comes off as poor game design. There are 100 other ways to ramp up the difficulty in a game. Useless squad members should not be one of them.
Any idea why we're out here?
And the repetitive lines used by these drones don't help much either.
Okay, Runs, put up and shut up. This is a combat mission, not a vacation.
Let me get to the final nail in the coffin. Fighting the same looking guys over and over. I know, it's a dungeon-styled RPG and these things happen. But a little more improvement over the years, with some added variety, would have been appreciated.
'Tis a fate we all aspire to.
So let me wrap this up by saying 2 Human, a game with too many faults. It manages to barely keep its head above water with some fun elements coupled with a decent story if you have the attention span to follow it, nice cutscenes, great voice acting, a work-in-progress type combat system, a pretty robust upgrade system which can sometimes seem a bit overdone, I might add, relatively good stage and overall game duration with a somewhat forgiving difficulty system, but then falls flat with an awful camera, dragged out respawn sequences, inaccurate melee combat, useless squad members, and repetition. The lab gives 2 Human a 6 out of 10.
Gotta pull it together.